The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. Excited to have you along for the ride here this evening, episode number 371. You can believe that, and this is essentially homecoming episode. Usually we talk and reflect back on what the year's been like and what the last year's been like for Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. I don't know if we're even going to get a chance to get to that. There is so much stuff. We have a jam-packed show. We're going to be catching up with TJ McCullough, who is $10,000 and one championship belt richer, which will easily make the issues that he's facing with unloading a bellied Oldsmobile to digest. And then we're going to be talking with Jason Pagel, who is also $10,000 richer. He didn't necessarily win a Mad Dog Award, but he certainly finished it in style with his round back. We're also going to be talking with Cory Roman, who picked up another high-profile win. He won the Big Wayne kicker class at the Iron City Nationals. We got some stuff to get into with Blizzard Bash. We've got some stuff that we're going to get into. Lake Erie Rumble was over the course of the weekend. That was a 2-day show this year. Some really, really fun Mad Dog Awards being handed out there. So we'll dive into that a little bit. So off to the races. We made it back. It ended up being, what was it? It was 22 and a half hours from when we left to when we got back home, right?
No, it was less than that. We left
at
7.
Oh, 7. Yeah, I was thinking from 6.
Yeah,
so
7.
So it was within 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
of
I laid down
straight.
around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. We, Chris and I went out and, hung out a little bit and did a little talking, and we got lost sort of on the way home. We were driving all interstates, and all of a sudden we were experiencing the back roads of rural Pennsylvania.
And you know what I never did was go back over to I-99 to see if maybe there was a crash, and it routed us around the delay that would be tied to that. Or the other thing is with the Google Maps that we were using, it allows you to identify roadblocks or speed traps and stuff like that.
Usually I just speed through them.
So with the amount of very spirited police patrols that we saw.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot about that. You said that. Holy cow.
Both
of those were bad.
Google might have been looking out for us.
Whew, that was crazy.
Or we may have been just engrossed in the conversation and missed the turn for one of the exits. I really don't know.
Took the wrong turn at Albuquerque.
But I'm pretty confident that we passed that same barn that the owl flew out of and crashed into the windshield back years and years ago.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the same barn from where people were cut into pieces in Friday the 13th, but
No. Hills Have Eyes reference fits there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite the trip, but it was fun. We got out and did some stuff and seen some people, and
finally met Alex Vasco face to face for the first time.
You've never met Alex before?
I'd never met him before. We'd always talked online, but I'd never met him before.
Wow, I met him over a year ago. He came and introduced himself at some mini meltdown down in Morris.
We were in the throes of some very intense things over there at the Iron City Nationals when I met him, and I hope that the impression that was left was positive, because in no way was I trying to be standoffish or coy or difficult. We had lots going on. Mm-hmm. It was an absolute pleasure to finally meet him. I knew that he was there when his truck pulled in. That was a very sharp decal wrap that he has on that.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the decal wrap to go on the Journey. We haven't had one of those in a while.
I did decals on one vehicle, the Avenger. You know what happened?
No.
I had to peel them all off.
Why?
Because I had the decals on it for maybe 8 weeks, and a deer shoulder blocked the headlight and ripped the whole front off it.
Oh.
So that car, down the road.
Yeah, but which one of your vehicles did you have a full wrap on? Did you put a full wrap on one of your vehicles?
It was the Avenger. The Avenger had a bunch of wrapped stuff on it.
I thought you had on something else.
Oh, I had the Monte Carlo that had the stuff for the pace car.
No, there's something else. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Oh, Lord. Off we go.
Off we go.
Nonetheless. So, TJ McCullough hanging out here. If we bring him up right here, you'll be able to see over his shoulder the championship belt, which for a huge WWE fan like himself is a major prize to pull down. How cool was that?
It's absolutely awesome. I was last year at Destruction on the Knob at the Hardcore Tour. I said, Steve, I'm gonna win that belt, and he said, oh yeah, we'll take a picture of it and I'll post it. So I took a picture of me holding the belt, and then of course I went up there and got absolutely spanked. So this, I had a little bit of practice holding it, but I actually had a chance to hold it for real this time, and it was pretty cool. Taking pictures with it, and of course, yes, being a huge WWE fan, anytime you get it awarded a belt, it's pretty awesome. I got to hand it to my son, Brooks and Lincoln. They love when I bring home a trophy, and we did a little video, and they were very impressed with the championship belt. So it was cool to give that to them.
So he handed the belt to his kids and handed the check to his wife, and he's got a bellied out Oldsmobile. Sounds like they worked out good for the whole family.
Yeah, it all happened way too fast. I didn't have the chance to tell her I only won 2,000. You know what I mean?
Honey, you wouldn't believe it. I had to pay them to run. I didn't make any money. Son of a.
It's like, I broke even today, honey. You gonna pay for gas today or what?
She didn't ask any questions when the top of the check, the return label said Dead Man Productions.
She's the real business behind this operation.
Hey, the good news is he's now a third of the way to the Undertaker's appearance fee. So if he can come up with another 20 grand between now and October, he's golden, man. We'll have the real Dead Man there. It'll be awesome.
I think it's more like 60. I looked into it. It's like 60 now.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it keeps going up. So I gotta get on this.
Can you imagine being like so in demand that people will pay you 60 grand just to come and hang out? Like, that's a pretty good gig if you can get it.
It's tough to get used to, but eventually
No,
just
honestly, I can't. I really can't.
I mean, that's like being Chris Marquardt almost. I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly. What's it like, Chris? What's it like?
It's hard to get acclimated to, but you settle in.
Oh,
so I mean, the story of the weekend leading up to the final exchanges really was the wagon in the Superstock class. Andy Burroughs had an exquisite Mopar wagon, and by all rights was probably going to win the thing. Mad Dog, without debate, and Melvin White had the freshest car when it came down to the last three. Mm-hmm. And you called it. You said somebody is turning a lot of RPMs and they're not moving. And then just like that, the black and red car held still.
Yep.
The left rear tire before that, just as you were talking about the transmission, James turned around and said it looked like he just lost a tire. And we talked about how that's going to help him out.
Yeah.
And the other tire goes flat, drives into a trench. TJ idles away with no back bumper. The left front fender and hood are flapping loose because they've come and welded. I was just waiting for someone to hit it and peel the whole thing right off the hood.
Yeah.
And just like that, fortune smiled, and TJ comes away with the win and a very, very exciting conclusion to that. I mean, I think everybody wanted to see that as much as they wanted to see the wagon win.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people were really, really behind Andy in that. TJ can claim credit for, I think, 4 or 3 of the flat tires, and the fourth one I guess he just didn't get to. But it was exciting. I mean, what was it like from the driver's seat?
Well, Andy's spectacular. He builds a bad, mean ride. That thing was just nasty. I was thinking, you run against Mopar wagons, okay, maybe the front's going to be really, really stout, but the rear end of that thing's going to be soft. I drove into the rear end of that thing, and I was like, it is not soft. And he can drive, too. It's not like he just was out there, just one end to the other. He was strategically getting to the point where he was really hard to get away from. And I got into a little bit of a battle with Brett early, and I kind of looked around, and I seen him and Paul were kind of going at it. Paul Hendrickson from New Hampshire, he was down there, and I kind of seen that going on, and I was like, well, let me go help my buddy Paul out here and see what's going on. And I seen how stout that wagon was still going. It was rolling perfect. And I said, you know what, right now, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And I looked up in the crowd, and Jacob Gilliam and everybody's telling me, get the wagon. I'm like, all right, whatever. Time to go after the wagon. So I found a chance. I got a hold of the right front wheel the first time. And then I just kind of bought my time and waited to find an opportunity. I seen how much him and Paul were going after it. And as soon as it pulled forward, I just wide open, got the right front just to slow him down a little bit, because he was just terrorizing everybody. And it was definitely, it was interesting as it got down to, 3 or 4 when Paul broke. Now we're down to 3. I could hear what you guys were hearing, the high RPMs, and I didn't know who it was. And Andy's front end was so high, he couldn't see what he was hitting. So I just kind of wanted to give him the cage as much as I could give him the cage. And then once I heard, Mel's tranny go, I was like, this could really happen. And I went through that corner there, and I remember earlier in the night, my crew said, stay out of that area. It's very muddy. So I took him over to that area. I let him follow me into that area and just prayed that he would get stuck there. And I stopped between the 2 cars, let him hit me, moved forward, made a mutual hit, and then kind of just left him sit there. And sure enough, he couldn't move anymore. So I've always said, if I ever had the chance to finish a derby, I would go for one of those Mark Elliott closers and go wide open. And there were about 40 people in the stands giving me that just a little bit. Don't hit him very hard. When Nick King said, you got to give him at least one, that was a mutual hit. I wanted to go rock him one, but you've all seen that where you go in and rock him one and jar him loose, and then you end up finishing second. So I went over and gave him probably the softest hit I've ever put on anybody, but it was just enough to get the tears rolling and start realizing that it was happening.
Yeah, I was very shocked by the Mopar wagon, because you mentioned him and Hendrickson were battling, and Hendrickson backed to his rear tire on the passenger side, split that body open, and I told Chris on air, I said that could be it for that wagon, and then somebody hit him in the corner, like on the bumper, and man, that thing rolled up and started packing in, and it was hard in the back.
The whole floor section ripped out of it when the bumper came off.
Yeah,
and it didn't affect it at all.
That car was crazy tough.
That's what happens when you only rip one of the floors out.
Yeah, well, and then Chris and I we were commenting. I said, man, that thing's bending behind the A arms. It's bending funky, and you could see that it was affecting the steering some, but I didn't realize how bad your car was starting to belly until after you got the checkered flag. For whatever reason, I'd been watching, but I don't know if you weren't sideways on the track long enough or what, but when you were parked there, when you were celebrating, I went, man, you'd really bent the nose of that. That was really bellied. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Well, for the first 15, 20 minutes, I didn't use it a whole lot. I was like, the rear end's going, and then when the bumper came off, I kind of looked up to the crowd, and that's so awesome to have people up in the crowd that will tell you what's going on. And they were telling me the rear end's rolling good. You lost your bumper, but the rear end's going good. I'm getting us all this information, and I'm like, okay, we'll keep using the rear. Well, then I drove off. Like, I wanted to drop that Mopar wagon to the ground.
Yep.
That was my idea. My front end hasn't moved all night long. I'm gonna drop that wagon, and I hit him hard in the rear, and it flexed like hard. And I was like, oh, don't do that again. And it bent really hard in one shot. And everything else I hit, it didn't move until I hit that thing. And it was like hitting a brick wall. And then I backed off and tried to use the rear end again, but it got down to where I had to start using it a little bit and trying to hit tires and things like that. Those cars are super hard. You can't appreciate it on a video how hard these cars really were. But it was like hitting a brick wall, especially Burrow's wagon, Mel's Cadillac. I'll be honest with you 100%. I told Mel this. I don't think any of us had anything for the front end of his car. It was just one of those nights where it just ended up working out. But yeah, it bellied so bad that, like I said, I tried to pull it off the trailer here to put it in the garage about 45 minutes ago, and it got caught on there and slid sideways, and now it's caught halfway off the trailer. Got to go get the skid steer and put it back on. So yes, it did belly hard. I was hoping to get 2 runs out of it, but one's good enough.
Yeah, when you bring home the oversized check on the first run, you can cut her up and send her to the scrapyard then.
Yeah, that's the truth. And we'll pick a part off of this awesome Most Wanted Fine Art paint scheme, Jason Sauer. We'll clip a piece of the car off, hang it in the garage as a nice little trophy, and I told Jeffy, I said, this is the first time I ever ran your headers. I said, I kind of like to keep the header off the car I won with. And I was like, but they're so nice. They're brand new. They didn't get touched. I said, I think I might have to leave them on the car. So we'll leave them on there. But once I retire them, they'll go on the wall too.
Nice. Very cool.
Were you concerned at all when the back bumper came off your car?
Not at all. It was designed for one reason only, is that to flip it. And I knew that once I started hitting with it, it would eventually fall off. And I wanted that because years and years ago, I ran a wagon. And when the frame rails are exposed, you can put one frame rail on a tire and just blow the tire clear off of the car. So when it came off, I started hitting at a different angle and started using, instead of hitting square, I just moved off, 4 feet to the right and just tried to hit that frame rail directly into a wheel. And it starts bending stuff really fast and starts popping tires really fast. And, I actually popped a Brett came over top of my right rear quarter and just blew the sheet metal just right into the wheel. And it just like a razor blade just tore the outside tire completely apart. But thank God I run Ruts Fab, full bead locks. I was like bouncing around. I felt like I was in a Camry wagon, bouncing around on solids like the whole time. And but thank God we run the high end product like we do from Jordan and John Rutherford, Ruts Fab, and that's what got that done. Because I never, once it started shearing away a little bit, once the tire actually went flat, I actually got better traction, which was awesome.
So you told me that there used to be a trick that you employed until you got head. How many drivers? There was 11 plus you. How many drivers were you running with out there?
You're gonna call me out like that?
I heard a story when the show was over with that some folks were perplexed at how the feature played out because they had thought that things would perhaps go a different way, but when it comes down to it, somebody has to win and somebody has to get hit, right?
Well, I guess I'll say this much is, we'll go back to the wrestling thing. There's always the famous heel turns. There's always the big surprises and everything when, you're working with somebody and it comes down to it and it's $10,000 on the line. It's better to make the first move than it is to have to make the reaction move. I was definitely working with a few people out there for sure. I was very unsure of a few, went after them right away. Once they were out, then it was kind of, let's kind of see how things roll and see how things work out. I mean, the politics are politics. I mean, you can never keep it out of Derby. The other thing is you cannot trust a Derby driver at all. Like, you cannot. Like, I have trusted so many people this year, running Unified Point Series. I've trusted so many people, and they're like, "We're with you to the end, man. Like, we get down to the end, and then we'll just kind of see what happens." I'm like, "Great," and then I'm side by side with this dude, and he'll just rip my wheel off, and I'm like, "Really, dude? Like, come on." So you just never know until you know. And we made some good friends out there over the weekend. And I'll be honest with you, I went to battle with Brett. I don't remember how long it was, but the time we were going at it was, I was like, "Brett, buddy, like, no more. We're good. Like, we're good." I pulled up to him, and he'll tell you this story. Honest to God, we pulled up on a red flag, and I looked over to him. And I'm like, Are we good? Are we good? We done? Like, it's got to be over now, right? And he's like, he gave me the okay, like, we're good to go. And I was like, okay. And then I go and I pick a fight with Burroughs, and that almost cost me even a chance at the top 3 or 4 because he was getting after me hard. I mean, he tracked me like 4 or 5 times. The one time he pushed me all the way down into the far end, I had the brakes on, threw it and drive, and he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing all the way into another car. And I was like, don't dig in, because that's the worst thing you can do. And I just let him move away. And soon he moved away, I was like, all right, do I still have it? And I got out of there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get out of there. Red flag came in. I pulled up next to him, and I'm like, hey, we're good, right? We're good. I'm like, okay, maybe it worked. I got Brett off me. Maybe it'll work here. Like, let's try to manipulate this thing a little bit so I can get down to the top 3. And he was like, he just kind of like gave me a nod. I don't know if he even knew what I was saying, but as soon as I went down the track, full track right in the front, I'm like, oh, we're not good. But I shook his hand afterward. Excellent driver, awesome guy. I mean, he took home what, $5,000 for second and $3,000 for Mad Dog. He had a really good night too.
Yeah, it's not a bad night.
Let's find it.
And well deserved. Well deserved. I actually at one red flag, Mark Burris came out and jokingly I said to him like, "Hey, how close am I to Mad Dog?" And he's like, "You're not close." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
It was funny after the Derby was over. Chris and I were over saying goodbye to Steve and Todd, and I said, "Hey," I said, after watching this Derby, I said, "You know what you guys got to do?" I said, "You got to saw them GMs and start buying Mopar wagons." I said, "You see how nasty that car was out there?" And they laughed. And I think Steve said he's got 3 of them. So, but I was very impressed. I mean, I'm a Mopar guy at heart, but unfortunately, they usually can't compete when you get to the bigger shows with the full frame cars. And
Todd said if he had that wagon, it would have been a different story.
Yeah. But, I was happy to see it. But, I mean, and I don't want to say too much, but, I mean, you came up and talked to us a little bit during the show. I mean, when we had some breaks. And, it's for you to tell us what it would mean to you to win that show. It was great to see, it was great to see you have that experience and, to get that big win. I mean, Chris and I talked about it on the way home, and it was, it was great to see. I mean, there definitely was no easy route to that win. So that's got to be one of your top wins of all time without a doubt.
It stands alone really high at top. Now, obviously, you'd love to win a 150 car Derby, blah blah blah. But like you said, that was not an easy. It was war out there. It really was. And I ran a 5-car Derby earlier this year. That was one of the hardest derbies I've ever won in my life. And to be out there with the caliber of drivers and the caliber of builders that were on that track was very humbling to even be a part of that. But I'm 4 years removed from being the fan that me and Mark Spearman would go to Bash for Cash to watch Steve Siopa, the show, watch them run. And to flash forward 4 years and have one of the most influential people in the sport. I was a fan of this guy. Hand me, a check for $10,000. To tell me he was proud of me. It was a huge moment. It was very emotional. I promote shows, and I just can only pray that the guy that wins my show, it means that much to him. I mean, I do not hide emotions. When I see Nick King start throwing that checker flag, I mean, I bawl. I mean, it means something to me. I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and wins every single time I run. I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and wins a $10,000 show. It just ended up working out the right way for me. It was my night. I just remember sitting up the night before. Something felt a little weird. I just kept telling Kayla, I said, when's it going to be my turn? I want it to be my turn. I want it so bad. I stopped by so many people and just talked and just said, I want it. I don't know why I want it so bad, but I do. And it just ended up working out. God's good. It was my time. And, and like you said, in any other Derby, the Mopar wagon cleans it up, or, the fresh caddy front end ends up getting it. But I have definitely been on the other end of that, where I felt I had the best car and watched somebody else sneak away with basically my money. So this particular time I got to walk away with the money, and that's just kind of how Derby goes. It comes around, goes around, I guess.
Definitely.
Well, $2,000 win. There was an $8,000 tax.
Truth. I'm gonna have to look at all the write-offs of everything that broke.
I was standing there talking with Steve and Mark, and one of the guys that works for Brett had hauled their 2 cars down, and then he hauled the wagon down that he sold to Steve. So we're standing there talking, and
there was 3 cars on that. It was Brett's, Taylor Atwell, and
both,
Tyler Atwell,
and then the wagon. Yeah. And so we're standing there talking, and Brett pulling a small enclosed trailer that had tools and parts and stuff in it. He's like, "Hey, you want to help me fix my oil pan?" I'm like, just put some gasket sealer on it, you'll be fine. He's like, "No." He's like, "There's a hole in it the size of my head." And I'm like, "No, there's not." And sometimes Brett embellishes a little bit and, bust chops. And so he's like, "No, really." He's like, "Come over and help me fix it." And I'm like, "Whatever." And honestly, I'd forgot about it. And I was walking around the pits and checking stuff out, and they'd unloaded the cars off, and they said Brett's. And they're on their, Brett's torching. And I'm like, "What?" So I went over and looked, and literally, like, the sump of the base where the sump goes, the whole bottom of it was gone. When they loaded it, they'd had a hole in a brake line and hit the brakes and off it went, and it literally knocked the bottom off the pan. So Brett hauled that way knowing that, like they didn't have time to fix it at home, so he hauled it all the way there. He cut the
Sway bar?
No, not sway bar. He cut the cradle, bottom part of the cradle, cut that out so they could get to it, and change the oil pan, or change the pickup, change the oil pan, fix the brake line, and then went out and ran the Derby. And I'm just like, and I mean, he didn't win, so he wasn't extremely happy because Brett is sort of successful, won a few Derbies. But I'm just like, I couldn't imagine overcoming all that stuff to win a Derby. Like, if my car isn't perfect the way I want it, like, I just am so out of it when I get to a Derby. But like the stuff he overcame, and to drive that down far, and TJ put a great shot on the front corner, and really hurt that car, and he still battled down and ended up in a top 5 spot. So hats off to Brett. He definitely. I think that's probably the hardest he's ever had to work for a 5th place. But it was good. I mean, we commented the on-track action all night was fast-paced. I mean, I'll be really honest. A lot of the kids that ran the youth class we'd seen run at Bash for Cash, and it was a little slower paced. And man, they got out there on that track, and them youth guys were getting. And there was a girl that finished second. Yep. Right? And she was junking stuff. I mean, it was everybody all night long was just getting after it. It was a great show, fast paced, hard hitting. It bothers me that more people didn't support. And Chris and I talked about that a little bit, and I talked a little bit with Steve, but there was a few big dollar shows that didn't get a lot of cars this year, and I'm not really sure why. But
there's this weird argument that's happening right now. When it was heats and features, nobody wanted to come, so to say.
Yep.
There was like 30 pre-registered cars that had paid, but they were only able to get confirmations from so many. And push come to shove, as things evolved, it was knocked down to a one and done. Well, then everybody wanted to come that didn't register before because it's one and done. And I like how Iron City Promotion stuck to their guns, but they could have had more cars. Mm-hmm. But these are the guys that got in. These are the guys that are going to get to run. They believed in it before, not because it's easy, but they believed in it before, and they supported us. So it is what it is. We're going to keep it fixed. There's other classes if you want to come and run, and the people did. So they could have had more, but so often we hear Demolition Derby say, "Well, the promoter just needs to make a decision and stick with it," and they did.
They did. It was great.
And it was, for 12 cars, it was an outstanding feature. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, every heat that was on that track was hard hitting. I mean, the mod compacts, what was there, 5 or 6 of them? And they were junking stuff. There was a lot of track, and they were using it.
We can run through some of this stuff real quick while we are on the topic. We're going to be catching up with Cory Roman here in a few minutes as well. TJ McCullough taking the win over Andy Burrows and Melvin White. Paul Hendricks in 4th, Britt Riley in 5th place. Andy Burrows got Mad Dog in the headline super stock division. The stock compacts, Jonathan Heilman won that one over Lucas Victor and Zach Eisler. Youth full size, Scott Drevenich, Emma Fowler, Jack Jernovich, or Drenovich. I keep messing that up. I'm trying to read the letters and not doing the it seems almost like you pronounce them out of order.
Yeah.
Jack was 3rd place, Emma was 2nd, Scott, little freebie, got the win in that one. Most wanted to find art, not so elite class. Interesting, John. I thought John Heilman scored some points there, but on this rundown, it was Steve Taco getting 3rd place, so he had to come out and get points. So most wanted finders, Dan Ruse got the win there. Ricky Duggan 2nd. Steve Taco was 3rd place in that one. Mod Compacts, Jordan Rutherford got the win, and that was another one of those turn of events features where it looked like John had it, and then things just went Jordan's way. He got the win, so that was a big win for him. John 2nd place, John Rutherford 2nd place, Jeremy Tillotson in 3rd, and then the big weighting class, Cory Roman got the win over Tony Godwin and Dakota Hayes. So TJ McCullough putting his name up there side by side with previous Keystone National winner Don Santel in the Super Stocks. So
pretty good company.
That is. I don't think there was another Keystone Nationals before that.
And my name don't belong on that list.
Well,
let's be real. I win 3 or 4 more. You can put me up in there, but Don's a legend on his own. A lot of those guys are doing. I got to touch on that real quick about the the Rutherfords. My wife and I were sitting in the stands watching Jordan and John go at it there at the end. And it was so funny you said a change of events, because, yes, it did look like John had it. And when John knew he had it, the smirk on his face was this big, and he was toying with Jordan. And then all of a sudden he didn't have it anymore, and the smile went like this on Jordan's face, and he was cranking on his dad. And it was just so funny to see that course of that change really fast on how Jordan was out and John was going to win it, and then all of a sudden he wasn't.
Yeah.
And just the smirk on Jordan's face, like, yep, I got you, Dad, was absolutely awesome. It was great action all night long. Shout out to the Iron City Promotions crew. I mean this wholeheartedly. I'm not just saying this because I ran and whatnot. Right in that area is like one of the derby capitals of the world. And if you're not supporting that show, I don't know what you're doing. I really don't. Last year, everybody said, oh, it's going to be a Ford Fest again this year because three Fords finished in the top 3. This year, 3 Old Iron finished in the top 3. So the rule set's obviously correct. You know, the tech was on point because all the cars bent.
Yep.
Everything moved.
Yep.
I mean, my car's junk, you know, except for Mel White's front. That thing was stout. But, I mean, everything was junk. So, I mean, like, it was the right set of rules. Like you said, all the classes were awesome and fun and enjoyable. I mean, if you're not supporting Iron City Promotions of what they do, I don't know what you're doing, especially when they bring a show right in the heart of everything. So, and we've already got called out for what's going on next year. Steve announced a promoter heat for next year's Iron City, and I said, Dead Man is in. Dead Man is in.
Yeah,
I said, funny. The only thing bad about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say the only thing bad about it, if he says you pick your best 4 and your crew, and I'll take my best 4. Well, if I pick my best 4, I don't get to drive.
Hey, Cory Roman.
Yeah, it's. I saw that today, and I thought that was a great idea. I mean, and if you think about some of the promoters in the area, I mean, there's some good teams that can be put together.
So, TJ, what you got to think about is maybe
I called and informed Steve that I hired Don Santel, Pete Hansen, and Toby Hiley this morning.
That'd be an okay team.
I was gonna say you could always tell Steve that one of your 4 would be Mark and Todd and Joey.
I asked Steve if he wanted to run for Dead Man, and he said no, I'm good. So I don't know what to do.
Awesome. Well, another one of the winners from the weekend, Cory Roman, joining us here on the hotline. Cory, man, congratulations.
Thanks.
Another big one in the books. A little different build technique for this one. Put the Imperial in victory lane this time around. Is this the same Imperial that we had the conversation about when we were out in Ohio?
I have to refresh my memory on that. I don't remember.
Well, we talked about which boxcar was still left over and tried to address what the history was, and we were talking.
Yeah. This one was Casey. Casey Smith built this one, 2015 for Record Warriors store at Stoneboro. I ended up with it and kind of been adding to it for the last 5 years.
Now, I mean, have you looked the car over? I mean, did you scratch any paint or anything on the front bumper, or I mean, is it good to go?
There's a couple nicks in the bumper, little sheet metal damage. That's about it.
I was standing there when Cory brought it through the line, and I was just like, "That's gonna hurt." That car was, it was ready to go. And at first, like, when Chris and I were, we were announcing, I couldn't find you, and I'm like, "Where the hell is Cory?" And then he's like, "Right there, the green shirt." And I'm like, "All right, we're good." So then you'd snuck out on the track, but it was that was a pretty fast paced, hard hitting heat as well.
Yeah, I mean, for as muddy as it was, I mean, those kicker cars are so stiff. I mean, we all had a little bit of trouble steering. Really was wanting to push through the mud, but I mean, it kept a pretty good pace.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good hits.
I was wondering about the engine combination that was in that. Did you end up doing anything different with the engine package versus when we saw you get the win out there at the King of Ohio show?
Yeah, this is actually that was actually my Reckless Warriors engine that I won for winning the point series.
Gotcha.
In this one, my 355.
Chris was right. He said he's pretty sure there's a red line in it.
Completely different setup, front to back.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I had in that car that was in my King of Ohio car was the batteries.
Nice.
Well, it worked out all right. It seemed like a couple of the cars started pushing steam a little bit earlier than maybe that we expected. Is that a product of just what the track surface was at that point of the night?
I mean, I'm sure those cars are heavier also. I mean, I know mine wasn't really steam. I must have a bad radiator. It was leaking around the radiator cap for some reason. So
Okay.
I don't know what was going on there, but it wasn't real hot. Yeah, I mean, them cars, they're quite a bit heavier. You start running, you know, when you only have 6 or 7, 8 cars, whatever there was, you got to run them hard, you know. You can't just be sitting there because it only takes one shot. You have no wheel, you know.
That's what one of the things that TJ was saying a little bit earlier, if you're just tuning in, is, you know, he had to fight through one of the toughest derbies he ever had to, and there's only 5 cars out there. You have all that space. Mm-hmm. You're going to run through your equipment a whole lot faster, trying to make everybody else run through equipment a whole lot faster because there's only 5 cars to hit. So that kicker heat was certainly fun. It was running tribute to Big Wayne.
Yep.
Certainly a gaping hole that continues to be there for everybody over there at Iron City. But his naming rights were on that class, and I'm certainly sure that he would have been smiling after it. It was a fun one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
I'm sure. Well, when wasn't he smiling?
Well, good point.
Yeah, we were commenting early on in that kicker class. Somebody got pinned up against the tires, and they got hit like right on the front of the door and on the fender, and it pushed it in like 2 foot under the cage. I mean, there was some hard hitting going on out there. I mean, I would like to see some of those. I would have liked to see some of those cars afterwards and see the stuff that was bent. Because I mean, that's, you know, the bodies they're pretty tore up to begin with, but I mean, you start bending the big parts, you know, when you run those cars, and you know, there was a ton of tire shots. I mean, we commented on how good guys were just hitting tires, and there was a lot of the more expensive parts were getting broke in that class.
Some of those were super low slung in the back. It looked like a lineup of shovels.
Yes.
You know.
And that's the thing, is we figured maybe we'd see somebody go on their lid, but shockingly nobody did.
No, if anybody was, I thought the Laura that was in Todd's wagon when he was up there on 3 wheels.
Yeah.
He was probably about the only one that was even close.
Yeah. He was popular for a minute. There was a few guys that took some shots on that wagon. I commented. It kind of seems anywhere you go in a wagon, you're kind of a target for those other cars that are in the heat with you. Yeah. I mean, he was running hard. He hit some people, and I think they went and hit him back. You know. Yeah, no doubt. So, is your belt hanging up next to the big trophy you got for the King of Ohio win, or?
Honestly, I don't have anywhere really. We're finally in our house now, but I really don't have anywhere to put that trophy. So it's just kind of been sitting on the floor.
Listen, this is what you do. As soon as you get off the phone with us, tell the missus that we said you can bring all your trophies in and put them right in the living room. Then you always have something to talk about with the guests when they come over.
Well, it is sitting in the living room, but that trophy, that King of Ohio one's pretty big. I don't have a shelf. I have 2 nice big shelves on my mantle, and it's too big to fit anywhere.
That's a good problem to have.
I gotta find somewhere for it to go. Now the big Wayne belt, I did it sitting. It's propped up on my mantle, right above my fireplace, beside the TV.
That's awesome.
Probably gonna stay there for a while. The kids seem to like the belt, so
that's awesome.
Chris Christner in the live chat. I didn't realize that John Hyman was this busy this weekend. We didn't acknowledge him as much as we should have. He ran the 2 heats, like we said, in the most wanted fine art class. Didn't get third. I thought that he had to go out and improve his points, so he had no points up to that point, and he won the compacts. Mm-hmm. Turned around Sunday and ran 2 more heats and won one of them there. So 2 days, 4 heats, 2 wins. Not a bad.
Not bad. Little Freezy won Sunday as well.
Did he?
Yeah, I saw it. I believe in a compact. He won
Freebie?
Sunday. Yeah, freebie. Cool. Yeah.
Russell Argo says he hates how his night went, but George is still going to be there next year for redemption. Interesting here, Kyle Baker. it's something to think about. Pre-entries are hurting shows. Now, some of these shows that have pre-entries, they don't necessarily make the entry list public.
Yeah.
But I can see that where that pre-entry thing is hurting a show because, like you said, if your car's not on point, you don't necessarily want to go out there.
Yeah.
And
but and here's the thing, and I've touched on this before, is I've always said that I'd like to run a big show, but I mean, I would think that a majority of Derby drivers have been beat at their hometown fair before. Right. Probably more than they've won in a lot of cases. So I mean, so what if you go to Keystone Nationals and get beat by some of the names we've seen there Iron City Nationals,
right.
And my bad, and you get beat by some of the quality guys that are there. Well, at least you stepped up and took the swing. It's like.
One that jumps to mind is Frank Van Houten.
Yeah, I was just going to say Frank and Dan Stone.
Those poor guys.
Brandon Stone. Brandon?
Huh?
Stone. David. Jeez, I'm Christmas.
The Atwells.
Yep.
Pushed the car out, and that was that.
Yeah. But I salute all those guys. I mean, Frank has derbied around here for years, derbied everything. Usually brings 5 or 6 cars to our hometown fair. And he said, hey, and he went last year. I really respect those guys for doing that stuff. It's a big step up. I mean, I wouldn't run any of those classes. Maybe the Midwest or the Most Wanted Fine Art, because that's a pretty soft build and the cars bend and I don't, so that would probably be okay. But that's a tough derby, man. It's tough on equipment. It's tough on people. So, shout out to everybody that went down there and run. It was. For the ones that did it, they put on a great show, and there was a lot of prize money handed out. So,
for sure, it was good to see Tim and Russ down there.
Yep,
those guys went
Tim
down. And I'm wow, yes, Tim and Tim.
Tim and Tim, habit.
Yeah, it is a habit. Tough one to break. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on and making some time for us. We're going to shift gears and head up to Minnesota next. So. Cory, man, appreciate you coming on. Congratulations on the win. I mean, it certainly didn't seem like it was an easy one by any means, but it's a nice one to come away with.
Yep. No, thanks for that, and thanks for having me on. And hopefully, I'm talking to you again next Monday.
We'll keep the number on speed dial. Thanks a lot, Cory.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Sounds
See
good.
you, Cory.
Catch you later.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.
There goes Cory Roman. TJ, I think Zoom is going to kick us off if I'm not careful, because it said something about a 45-minute limit on the meeting. So
yeah, no problem. I'm just hanging out. It was just a blessing to be able to share the Crash Course Live podcast with King Roman. So
if you want to hang out and it doesn't kick you off, you're welcome to stick around for we gotta run through some ad spots here, and then we're going to get Jason Pagel on as well. So you're welcome to hang out and weigh in if Zoom doesn't kick you off.
Well, you guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. All right, guys.
All right. We'll catch you later. Thanks
See
for
you,
coming
TJ.
on.
See ya.
There goes TJ McCullough. Get that done and out of the way. Perfect. So now we press on with the next stages of stuff. So real quick before we drive any further into that, we'll jump into the Full Throttle Fall Nationals in a moment. Happy birthday goes out to Zach Herman, celebrating a birthday over the course of the weekend. Lake Erie Rumble was this weekend, and Alan McNeil, Father Time, his daughter Gabby, took home a Mad Dog Award.
I saw that.
How cool was that?
Yep. And Eric Remington ran as well, right?
Eric came back, and not only did Eric come back, but he also took home a Mad Dog Award.
Nice.
And there seems to be plenty of car left. He just sent me a picture of a car that suggested that perhaps he was going to target the 15, which, if you've ever been to Dunkirk, it's a bit of a poor choice. And you can see that it bent perfect in the nose when Robinson and Eric were done, because it never even bent the fan blades. It just went right up over the top.
Oh, I thought being a Dunkirk car, I thought you meant by perfect bend meant it didn't bend at all.
Right.
And
like
they just had to repaint it and it was ready for the next show.
Yes, that does happen. That was the home of that 14 run Imperial, and
That weighed 18,000 pounds?
All of them. There was a whole fleet of them that the first time we went there in 2012, I was still seeing those cars when Lake Erie Rumble was around in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting. So let's run through some of this stuff. We'll come back around to this topic actually on the back end. Blizzard Bash teams for the national side have been released. We'll dive into that in a moment. Stormont Valley Event Center is the site of Blizzard Bash 2021. BlizzardBash.com has the details. Live heat draws on Wednesday the 10th. Thursday's opening round of qualifying with the national and qualifying teams. Let me get this out of the way here. It's getting in the... A lot of stuff going on. Scott Drevenak says TJ is cool. Alan McNeil says thanks. Mad Dog Saturday and Sunday got the sweep. Got both days.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. National qualifying opening round Thursday the 11th. On the 12th is national qualifying round 2 plus the 80s bone stock and street stock weld class. Saturday the 13th compact limited weld team round 1. Trucks and limited weld in the morning session. The national qualifying B features in the afternoon. Compact and limited weld B features. Modifieds and front wheel drive hobo stock all part of the evening program. And then Championship Sunday has all 14 features. Qualifying and the national plus the compacts limited weld and the 2-man extreme class as well on Championship Sunday the 14th. Battle for Upper Co. This is TJ's event. That is coming up on October the 9th, right around the corner. This is the Demise at Upper Co. is the third and final stage of action there. Super stock, full size, dead stock, full size stock compacts, dead man compacts, minivans, SUVs, Power Wheels, and of course the racing. Pits open at 8, spectator gates at 11, racing at 1. Adults are $15. 12 and under are free. That's at Carnival Avenue in Upper Co, Maryland. Don't forget, Buried Alive 2 is right around the corner, October 29th through the 31st. 12,000 to win super stocks, Graveyard Younger, the Joker Compact Rumble, all part of the program online at deadmanderby.com. We saw Tim and Tim. They've got a couple derbies left on their schedule. The 25th is Ashland County Fair in Ashland, Ohio. The 27th and 28th is the Brown County Fair in Georgetown, Ohio. Fairfield County Fair in Lancaster is October 15th and 16th. And then the cleanup shows at Washington Courthouse at the Fayette County Fairgrounds. Stay up to date with everything going on with Smash It Demolition Derby online at smashitderby.com. We saw Jeffy. Jeffy just about sold out. Smith Metalworks just about sold out over there at the Iron City Nationals. Jeffy's Fab Farm is an industry leader in all manner of purpose-built derby parts, starting with rear ends in 06. The Fab Farm expanded to headers in 08, and the shop can boast a combined 70-plus years of mechanical skill. The Fab Farm specializes in the LS conversions and conversion components. They've got consistent feature wins across North America, so your turnkey solution is only a phone call away. The Fab Farm Camarino Box campaign sets you up for success in the compacts with a retail price of $525. Make sure you ask about the multi-fit shifter options, and you're going to find fuel and air parts, suspension and transmission items, steering components, pedal switches, and gauges if you need it. It's on the farm, jeffyfabfarm.com. And Smith Metalworks, like we said, they were down to hoodies and a shifter cable when we went over to the table, and that was before cars even had really got there. So they moved their stuff. All-purpose fabrication shop that is taken to the Northeast by storm. Smith Metalworks features more than 40 years of combined metalworking experience. The hallmark of the product line is the pointed and flat front bumpers, the super stock option. That's the one that Brian went with. They can be stuffed at home. They can be run hollow. They've got Crown Vic door skins. They've got GM floor liners, engine mounting systems, battery boxes, pedal combos, and shifters. They have all the odds and ends, such as distributor clamps and welding centers as well. In-person locations for pickup at Mercer, Uniontown, and Bethlehem. Online, smithmetalworks.info. Can ship it to your door. Experience and passion second to none. Frankie Guy's hanging out in the chat. He's waiting just to make sure. Uncle Frankie making sure we don't mess this up. Final confrontation is in Dunbar, Pennsylvania. September 25th and 26th, 15,000 to win elite class, 2,500 to win hardcore full size, $3,500 Hellraiser award presented by Jeffy's Fab Farm in that. 5,000 to win hobby stocks, 4,000 to win compacts, minivans, trucks, SUVs, youth full size, youth compact, hobby stock, and powder puff, all part of the program. The 25th and 26th down there in Dunbar. Stay up to date with all the happenings and all the qualifiers on Facebook under Hardcore Derby Promotions. You can get the whole schedule and all the rules online, hardcorederbypromotions.com. So I think we ran through all of that stuff, which is always good.
Yes, I stopped over and talked to Jeffy for a while Saturday and talked to him about the LSs and learned, what makes them such a good motor and why so many people are going to them. Pretty neat. I always say that whenever you talk to Jeffy, you either A, feel really dumb because Jeffy's so smart, or B, you learn a whole lot. I had both happen, so it was neat to hear. It's always good to go over and talk to Jeffy and those guys, and we always talk dirt racing and drag racing and derbying, and just a cool crew to hang out with.
I love listening to him talk about drag racing. Jason, it's Chris. Can I put you in?
I'm still upset he didn't let me do a burnout with his car
Jason,
and bash for cash, but is what it is.
We got some results from up in Minnesota to get to. One, Jason Pagel joining us. This is the first time that Jason has been on the show. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. I've seen it a bunch of times, but I've never, to my knowledge, heard it said and pronounced appropriately. Is it Pagel or is it Pagel?
Yep, Pagel. Yep,
Pagel.
You got it right at Pagel. Yep.
All right. Well, we should. We got to make sure we put the respect on it. $10,000 richer for your efforts this weekend. Tell me a little bit about that run up there in Fairbault.
Yeah, Saturday, good weather, good track, dry track. It went pretty good. Tech was smooth. With a show like that, it's nice to have a big paying show or a bigger paying show in Minnesota. I hope it stays here so we don't have to drive, 8-10 hours to a bigger show. But the car count was down a little bit. But it sounds like that's happening everywhere. And, it went good. You got to have lady luck on your side, too. You're going to win a derby of that caliber, and you're going to have a little luck on your side, too.
Sure.
What style build was this? How heavy was it?
They call it a standard weld build, so there's no DPs, no tranny braces. This show had stock. You had to run a stock OEM rear end, no braces.
Wow.
You could change body bolts to 3/4, 1 inch rod at the core support. So it's pretty stock. You could have a 14-inch bumper bracket. I think that bumper bracket could be it's about 4 inches wide, 3/8 thick, but I think that was a little much. So I went with 1/4 inch. I'd like it to wiggle a little bit up there. Don't put so much pressure on your S's. So, pretty stock build.
I was going to say, for Minnesota, that sounds really calm because we've seen some stuff put together up there that was nasty. But that sounds like a really nice build.
Right. It's not over the top. It's pretty easy to tack. And this show too, they let used cars come in, so you get some 4x6 plates to repair. I think you had 4 plates. I think 6 plates total max, but you could have 4 plates on. Fresh cars could have 2 plates. So then after the heat, the fresh cars got 4 more plates. So every car in the feature had 6 plates.
Not bad.
That's nice.
This was, once again, this was the Full Throttle Fall Nationals at the Rice County Fairgrounds in Fairbault, Minnesota. John Kanzenbach had a great night, too. He took the win he took the compact win over Jacob Johnson and Mark Kanzenbach. Heavy hitter was Matt Gilsdorf. Minivans, Jathan Hausen, 16-year-old, got the win in that one over Norby Siegler and Brian Heinrichs. Jathan Hausen also taking Mad Dog Award and the win at 16, so that's pretty cool. And then the 2-man extreme vans, John Kanzenbach and Eric Kanzenbach got the win there. Riley Brown and Brant Melchert got second place. Jake Roman and Mitch Kimmies got third. Rahman and Kimmies ended up with the Mad Dog Award. Matt Russo and Dawson Hardy was fourth in that one. And then in Jason's feature, he drove the round back to the win, $10,000 there. Jake Hawk was second, Luke Johnson third, Jacob Bruisman fourth, Nick Richardson fifth, Spencer Velsky sixth, Cody Gaines seventh, and Andy Krakowski in eighth. Jacob Bruisman got the Mad Dog Award in that. So that's
I was going to say, there was a couple pretty big names in there. That's a tough feature.
So
Right.
we've had these conversations with Brandon Thomas, and they're trying to build a program. $33,000 paid out that over the course of that event.
That's a pretty nice payout.
Not bad. And so, I mean, you did you offset what you had invested into a round back? And those aren't cheap these days.
No, actually, I was sitting out in the weeds. I figured it was time I better bail it up. I probably had that car for a good 6 years back when they were sort of affordable. But it was a little different. It was a mixed-up car. A little bit of a 76 Caprice body on a 76 Pontiac frame with Pontiac fenders, and then I had a 74 Caprice core support. So I sort of got enough stuff to pick and choose, and it all bolted up together good, and she ended up, she lasted long enough to get to the top, which I would have never expected. If you would have told me I would win that show at the beginning of the day, I thought you'd be nuts. But it worked out.
How long have you been derbying?
Probably 25, a little over 25 years. Yep. So I'm getting up to that. I'll be 50 next year, and I think I'm going to be sore for the next 3 or 4 days. So recovery time is not for the old.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, you finished it not so much with a bid for Mad Dog throughout the duration of the event, but you certainly finished it with style, and we love how Minnesota tries to deliver in the closing shots. If you're going to win it, you're going to win it right now with this hit once it gets down to it. What was going through your mind with that shot was certainly goal-oriented to punch your ticket into victory lane, but like you said, not exactly for the faint of heart, the sport of demolition derby, and you're feeling it now.
Right. No, it was, and every derby ends a little different. There's always a story behind that, too, but this one was, within 15 seconds, Luke broke his transmission. One of my rails were pretty dirty in the back on the wagon. That broke off Jake Hout's front passenger tire. And I thought, well, this is about it. So we might as well bail her up real good. And we did a track shot and hit the dirt berm, and I got the crowd going. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like a good way to end
it. Right.
Brandon sent me the video, and it looked fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yep.
Not as much fun as they handed him that check for $10,000 though.
Yeah, that was pretty fun too. That's my first poster check. It'd probably be my last, but
you got one. That's all that matters.
I got to thanks to everybody out there. The promotional group that put this on. They said they're all in for next year, and I think it takes a little bit to build. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 60 cars next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever imagine when you started this, maybe a couple, 2-3 years into your driving career, that you'd be? I guess maybe it was close enough to where Metal Mayhem was the thing, but it seems like 10,000 wins is sort of standard.
Metal Mayhem, I don't think paid 10 from the beginning.
No,
I could be wrong, but because I remember when Mayhem I remember when it got to 10, and everybody was like, "Man, that's huge." But
right, that's huge money back then. Yeah. I ran Mayhem in 2009. That was sort of the flood. That was like 12 inches of rain that year, and we ran at midnight. I think with 6 inches of water on the track, and. But it was a full house. I mean, there's 40 wagons there, 50 wagons. So.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, because I went in 2010, and I'd never seen that many Chevy wagons in my life.
Right.
It was amazing.
Right.
Well, awesome. Yep. Are you running it all again the rest of this year? Are you done for 2021 and looking ahead to 22?
Yeah, I think I don't think any more this year. You never know if something pops up. Maybe try to find something in 2022, promote something in the area. I do like to go down to, that Kansas area, support the King of the Ring and stuff like that. Markley puts on a good show. So we do travel a little bit, but I think we'll start digging in for 22 and start getting some cages in some cars and fix everything that got wrecked this year.
Yeah. So, do you have any more fresh wagons laying around, or was this the last one?
Oh, there's some more out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Them wagon owners, they hold their cards close to the vest. There might be some more. It
ain't very hard to get rid of them, that's for sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. No. It's funny, he asked Bobby Whitaker the same question. He's like, yeah, we still got a couple wagons left. They grow them there. So.
Yeah. No, and then the Lanús out there too in Minnesota. They got their fair share of wagons too, but they're always looking. I mean, it's getting hard. It's getting hard to find any kind of old iron.
Yeah, the Penwells from Ohio, they're always out traveling to buy wagons. That's crazy.
I get some text messages from him too. Yeah.
I'll promise you this: I'll never try to buy a Chevy wagon from you.
Okay. Right. No, I'm sort of leaning more into fixing them up. I've wrecked so many of my life. My COVID-19 project was a 74 Bel Air out of Montana, so I took that all the way down to the frame and redid that and starting to put some of them back on the road.
Nice. It's funny. I when I left work today, a mid-70s factory looking, like it looked like it just pulled out the factory, Ford wagon pulled in. Chrome rims, the whole nine, driver. It was beautiful. Like, what's that?
What your wagon?
Mid-70s. It was like,
we saw that 70s sedan coming home, parked on the side of the road. Remember that Ford that was sitting? It was in. Like,
yeah, when we were on our way. No, that wasn't Ovid. That was somewhere in Pennsylvania. We saw that. We saw a T-Bird in Ovid. We saw a T-Bird on the way, but then we
saw
remember
the 70s sedan too.
Yeah, we saw that 70s Ford somewhere down closer to the track.
It was next to this Jolando's in Watkins Glen. It was backed up when we were coming up to Franklin Street to make the turn the rest of the way into Watkins Glen by the sports store.
You're right. Good call.
Yep.
That's why you're Chris Marquardt. No one else is.
Can you imagine how good this memory would be if it wasn't brain damage?
Without those 13 concussions?
Count them off. Brandon Thomas just sent me a message and said that you got a lot of funny looks when you tried to cash that check through a drive-through teller.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it went good. I appreciate what Brandon did for promotion. I mean, like I said, the tech went smooth. They did a great job all around. So I hope it happens again next year.
Awesome. Well, he's a regular viewer of the show, so I'm sure he's hearing your words right now. Congratulations on it. It was excellent to finally get a chance to put a voice into pronunciation with the name. Mm-hmm. And hopefully when you make some trips down into Kansas, maybe we can bump into one another sometime. It'd be nice to meet you.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Congratulations.
Have a good one.
I wonder if what he meant by good weather was there was only like 6 inches of snow on the ground.
Yeah, okay. It's September, so I mean, it's probably
melted.
It's probably got to be fun to run on permafrost. It's got to be frozen a bit on it.
We love our friends in Minnesota. There's I have not been to a Minnesota Derby and been disappointed. They all put on a good show.
There's no way that you can be disappointed up in that neck of the woods.
They're always on the gas.
The topic of such, Colton Newhoffen making a return to Blizzard Bash. Blizzard Bash teams are out.
Great to see. I saw Colton. He ran a show or two this summer. We saw him our first trip to Blizzard Bash. We saw him. It was the beginning of his 4 or 5 wins in a row in the A's and newer class. We saw. He also had a Thunderbird or a Suicide in the main class, but he didn't win that. But great builder, great driver. Good to see him back on the list. Daryl Monroe is back. Dustin Ingram.
I'm scrolling. I'm trying to find that.
Toast is back at it.
Steve Siopa
is.
Iron City Promotions has Toast, Rhett Gluey, and Joey Pernice on the team this year.
Yep.
Team America is back in there. Casey Smith, Brian Bryington, Phil Schell, and Derek Shelley all working together on that group.
I bet you whatever Derek Shelley brings, he runs wide open till there's nothing left. Fair bet?
Fair bet.
Okay.
Team Octane has added a new character, Booger.
Yeah. I'm going to put Booger in that same group of running it wide open until there's not much left because Booger's usually the hammer.
What car might it be? Shot in the dark.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say a big Cadillac.
Yeah.
Feel safe on that bet.
Kyle Puttawitter, Eric Floyd, and Dylan Kunkel teaming up as the standard bearers for Team Octane, and then adding Booger. Crazy Iowans, they won their way in a couple of years ago. They came in the same year that Team America came in. Mm-hmm. It was a great finish. It was Caddy Fest all over the place. It was Jerry Lyerly that helped book that for the Crazy Iowans, and Jerry Lyerly back with the team. James Kitchell, Justin Ferricks, Lane Ferricks, all working together on the Crazy Iowans. Team Kansas, I think this is the same lineup from a couple years ago, or at least close to it. Justin Montgomery and Markley going to be on that team with Brent Clemens and Barry Clemens. So that's.
I think the last time they ran, they had one of the.
They had one of the Geggs and Barry was on the team.
Yes, I believe.
Yep.
Because Brent had taken some time off.
Yes. Yep. That is correct. But things looking very much up.
Good there. Yes.
For that family. So
keeping our fingers crossed.
Hopefully it stays that way. Cheesy's back. He's got Mike Worth on Team TBL with Corey Nyhus and Craig Birkenpass. Those guys hang on to that national spot. They've been in peril a couple times. Mike Worth on the team. So already starting to cross wires a little bit. Team Octane, TBL, former JYD teammates. Could be a lot of fun. Team No Namers and Jason Dials, Tommy Stark, Craig McCracken, and CJ Barnes added to the no-namers lineup. Jason Dials was telling us about that when he was on the show. Or excuse me, Tommy Stark was telling us about that a couple weeks ago when he was on the show. Team WRP, Kenny Rossno, going to be joined by Matt Hoffmeister, Jared Van Gameren, and Tim Lang in the number 42. Tim Lang being added to that. Now, you got to remember, Imperials have been added to this. Mm-hmm. Tim Lang is known for driving some pretty nasty Mopars. So do we go so far to make the assumption that we're going to see an Imperial in the lineup for Team WRP? Kenny Rosnell's had a good year, so there's some momentum there. That's a very good quartet right there.
Yeah, I would expect probably an 03 and an imp on that team if I was going to go out on a limb.
Team Unknown, Jackson Bernstein, Justin Bernstein. Those guys had cars out of the Lucky Sevens shop when we saw them last. They had the round back, John Hayes and Corey Peterson working together on Team Unknown. Team CPI, David Earl, Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt earning the first Mad Dog that was ever given out at the Capital City Carnage event. Tori Hyde in the number 7 back again, and Nathan Gill in the Double X. Team GWC, Tyler Tuez, Cody Gaines, Mike Gaines, Jacob Bruisman, all running together on Team GWC. So that's going to be, I ended up feeling redundant when we kind of go through and break down the history of stuff just because these are names that everybody knows. Remember Jacob Bruisman got a win in one of the standalone shows?
Yes.
Out there. So, I mean, no slouch there. We just mentioned his name here a minute ago up there.
Top 4.
And he runs the 448 Promotions Point Series.
Mm-hmm.
Team Near It, Ryan Durham, Bobby Whitaker, Brandon Johnson, and Terry Timmons working together on that group, notably absent a couple significant names from past lineups on that, but as the current evolution, they were the winners back in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, as Team Guard Speed Shop.
Mm-hmm.
With Ryan Durham, I believe, being the only carryover from that, but I think that is that tandem of Durham and Whitaker are holding down fort for them to have their national spot secured. Team Blackout, Kurt Brinkman won Winter Slam several years ago, and we've seen him have some 6 down there. He has got Colton Newhofen on his team with Jared Heaney, Brian Rolls. That is a portion of the old Team Extreme group. Matt Ertman was running with them, so a couple of those guys have some serious history running together with one another. Team JWC, you know the lineup. I don't have to tell you the car numbers. I don't have to tell you what cars they're going to drive. You guys all know it already. Zach Johnson, Troy Johnson, Daryl Ewing, Chris Collins. Always fun guys to see. Always a threat. Mm-hmm. They have been so close so many times, and now they're in there, and they've got some work to do, though. We still have 2 teams to introduce you to. Team IFD, Eric Blom, Dustin Ingram, Daryl Monroe. Those guys all won Blizzard Bash together several years ago. A couple of those guys, I believe Daryl Monroe and Luke Johnson, right? Was it Luke, 17J? Those guys were one of the first teams to get a second win in the team format. They were with different teams. They were with Team Underdogs when they teamed up with Brett Clemens. So a couple of those individuals coming to the IFD stable with Dustin Ingram, Daryl Monroe, Trevor Jones added to that team. Then rounding it out, the Magician, Chris Lancaster, going to be running with Ryan Shivers. Carson Dixon added to the team after Mitch Carlson and Eric Moulet have stepped away, picked up Carson Dixon and Bob Meyer, who won the first year that we were out there back, I believe it was in 2013, when he ran with Pritchett and I think it was Bob Meyer, Pritchett, the 00. Dustin, not Dustin Anderson. Man, I can't.
Wolfstrom?
I did the roof sign for their cars when those guys ran out at Capital City Carnage. It was double D's. It was the 00 car. I'm blanking on it. I knew that was going to happen because I was too lucky. I remember too much of that stuff. I knew it was going to go away. Anyway, carrying on. I figured that the chat would be quick to fire off the name there. Man, I cannot believe that I'm blanking on that name. I can even see the logo when from what I put on I built a farm logo and put it on the side of the door wraps. And I believe it's in the game too. I converted the car over so that it could be in the game. Dustin Yanni.
Yeah, Yanni. There you go.
Just keep digging through the Rolodex. We'll get there eventually.
You'll find it.
All right. So, yeah, there's an introduction to the teams. We'll be breaking that down a little bit more as we move forward with more Blizzard Bash conversation here in the coming weeks, because let's face it, once we get to this episode, that's what we talk about. Did want to take a moment to mention it was in, there it is, Jacob Bruisman was actually listening and just said Dastignani's name. And thank you, Jacob. Hopefully everything has gone well. We've talked about some of the drivers that are coming in with some momentum, some of the drivers that picked up some past wins, and we never get anybody to say, yeah, we really want to go after this guy, because everybody's so equal at the national bracket. So we'll be diving into that. But this is going to kind of serve as the anniversary show. Our first show was September 24th, 2013. Or at least that's when the Facebook page was created. I think it was a couple days before we actually got the chance to go on air. Todd Slayup was telling us how he got everything springboarded and launched and everything like that. And we told him, actually, we had to correct this timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit different than.
Well, and it's, we'd started, and then they invited us. You guys went and hit. You guys did some long road trips that first fall, and then Todd had invited us out to Bash for Cash. And
that was the fall of 14.
Yeah, we did the 3 or 4 shows, pre-shows and post-shows out of their pit. And
in
Todd
the darkness.
Yeah, it was dark. Todd's like, "All right, get done. We got to go." And it was late. Then we drove home. It was fun though. It was a lot of fun reminiscing over the weekend.
There's Sam Bandow checking in. Sam, how was Sam?
Sam Bandow.
I have not heard from Sam in a long time. I hope all is well with him up there. And we got to be getting close to his favorite part of the year.
Deer season.
Where he gets to go kill everything, right?
Yeah. He's. I haven't seen any pictures posted or sent any pictures to me lately, so I'll have to check in with him. So
one of the people that I work with, her husband and their kids had gone on a camping trip, week-long camping trip up into the mountains, and they had permit for doe with a bow and any firearm for bear. Mm-hmm. And while they're out waiting, a moose walked by, and it sent one of the kids, the younger kid, into a frenzy. Equal parts amazement and terror.
Fear. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen a moose.
They couldn't do anything with it either.
I don't know if you've seen a moose up close, but they're roughly the size of a building. So, yeah, that would be awesome. I've never seen the biggest animal I've ever seen, like in the wild.
You think Sam ever shot a moose? I hope he's still listening. Tell us if you ever shot a moose, Sam.
The biggest animal I've seen in the wild was the first time we went to Adam Hill Hunting Adventures with Jeremy Gully, and we're walking along, and the owner Adam calls Jeremy and said, "Hey, I have an immature male bison, and he's an asshole, so stay away from him." So as we're walking along, we get to where the feeder was, and there's this buffalo standing there, and the first thing you notice is their eyes, and they've got eyes like a great white shark. They're black, and black eyes are scary looking. So I looked at Zach and I said, "If that thing starts running towards us, hand Jeremy that 270, because I have a feeling he's going to be a slightly better shot than you, and that will save our life." So we hunted that day, and then the next day we go back because I decided I wanted to do a boar hunt. So we go back the next day, and there were some other guys that was there before us, and we were kind of hanging out and waiting, and also we hear this. So Jeremy, the owner, Adam, calls Jeremy and says, "All right, you guys got the whole mountain, have fun." Jeremy's like, "What's this noise?" He's like, "Oh, that's just a buffalo headbutting a tree." And literally, it was like, doof, doof, doof. So they are big, scary looking at. And he was like 1,000 or 1,200 pounds, and they'll grow to be like 2,200 or 2,400. So, but that was the biggest animal I've ever seen, like out in the wild like that. It was pretty neat.
Melissa has seen moose in the wild when she used to take vacations up to New Hampshire with her family. Mm-hmm. And like when you're going down the highway, you know how we saw deer?
Oh yeah.
You could see pumpkin-sized knees in the shadows.
Well, my sister used to live in Maine, and I'd go up and visit during the summer. And every time I went up there was a fatality from a moose being hit on their interstate, because they're so tall. When you hit a moose, you basically break their knees, and then it's airborne into the windshield of the car. So I mean, they're huge animals. But
want to send some. I think Josh and his Trent qualified for the second day of running. I don't remember where they went, but they up in Maine. They qualified for the second day, but I didn't catch how the results were. I didn't have any results really that from the run in Maine. I didn't have the full stuff from Lake Erie Rumble. Today was chaos at school. It was
Chaos everywhere.
it's a little bit, a little bit. Thinking of George Highnote, he had a bit of a. Just thinking to George Highnote. Hopefully everything's good with him, and also good luck to Jesse Myers. And it's a good thing to have friends that are Derby people. He ended up getting in a bit of a car accident the other day, and Ken Owen was right there with a flatbed, got him towed back home, and
Nice.
hopefully everything's going good with those guys. We never like to see that stuff, but well, jam-packed show.
Time to go.
Here's to another year.
I'm still catching up from sleep from Saturday night, so
It was
it'll be an early night.
right on. So that's going to do it. Episode number 371 in the books. We'll see everybody next time. Thanks to everybody, and congratulations to our winners. We'll see you next time.
The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.